longer than the bed, they would draw him together, so they would go opposite the two sides of the bed at each end until the man reached the gates of death. So they would crush him. And he continued to cry out to them, they would not answer him, saying, Thus it shall be done to a man that cometh into our land. And when the men heard all these things that the people of Sodom and Gomorrah did, they refrained from coming there. And when a poor man came to their land, they would give him silver and gold, and cause a proclamation in the whole city not to give him a morsel of bread to eat. So they give him a pocket full of money and told him he couldn't buy anything and watch him starve with it. See, this is a wicked city. Now you see why God wiped him out. And the whole city not to give him bread, a morsel of bread to eat. If the stranger should remain there some days and die from hunger, not having been able to obtain a morsel of bread, then at his death all the people of the city will come and take their silver and gold back, which they had given him. This wicked. That is so wicked. And those that could not recognize the silver gold which they had given him took it back, and at his death they would also strip him of his garments, and they would fight about them, and he would prevail over his neighbor and took him. They would afterward that carry him and bury him under some of the shrubs in the desert. So they did all the days to one that came to them and died in their land. And in the course of times, Sarah sent Eleazar to Sodom to see Lot, inquire after his welfare. And Eleazar went to Sodom, and he met a man of Sodom fighting with a stranger. And the man of Sodom stripped the poor man of his clothes and went away. And this poor man cried to Eleazar, supplicated his favor account of what the man of Sodom had done to him. And he said to him, Why didst thou to the poor man who came to thy land? And the man of Sodom answered Eleazar, saying, Is this man thy brother? Or have the people of Sodom and Gomorrah made thee a judge this day, that thou shouldest speak about this man? And Eleazar strove with the man of Sodom on account of the poor man. And when Eleazar approached to recover the poor man's clothes from Sodom, he hastened and with a stone smote Eleazar in the forehead, and blood flowed copiously from Eleazar's forehead. And when the man saw the blood, he caught hold of Eleazar, saying, Give me my hire for having rid thee of this bad blood that was in thy forehead, for such is the custom in the law in our land. And Eleazar said to him, Thou hast wounded me and required me to pay thee thy hire. And Eleazar would not hearken unto the word of the man of Sodom. And the man laid hold of Eleazar and brought him to Shachar, the judge of Sodom, for judgment. And the man spoke to the judge, saying, I beseech thee, my lord, that this man has done, for I have smote him with a stone, that the blood flowed from his forehead, and he was unwilling to give me my hire. And the judge said to Eleazar, This man speaketh truth to thee. Give him his hire, for this is the custom in the land. And Eleazar heard the words of the judge, and he lifted up a stone and smote the judge. And the stone struck on his forehead, and the blood flowed copiously from the forehead of the judge. And Eleazar said, If this then is the custom in your land, give thou me unto this man what I should have given him, for this hath been thy decision. Thou didst decree it. Oh, that was funny. He said, so you owe me for a rock in the head. So y'all work it out amongst yourselves. And Eleazar left the man of Sodom with the judge, and he went away. And when the kings of Elam had made war with the kings of Sodom, the kings of Elam captured all the property of Sodom, and they took Lot captive with his property. And when it was told Abraham, he went and made war with the kings of Elam, and recovered from the hands all the property of Lot as well as the property of Sodom. At that time, the wife of Lot bare him a daughter, and called her name Peltith, saying, because the Lord hath delivered him and his whole household from the kings of Edom. And Peltith, daughter of Lot, grew up, and none of the men of Sodom took her for a wife. And a poor man came into the city to seek maintenance, and he remained in the city some days. And in all the people of Sodom caused a proclamation of their custom, not to give this man a morsel of bread to eat until he dropped dead upon the earth. And they did so. It's an evil town. See why God wiped them out. And Peltith, the daughter of Lot, saw this man lying in the street, starved with hunger, and no one would give him anything to keep him alive. And he was just upon the point of death. And her soul was filled with pity on account of this man. And she fed him secretly with bread for many days. And the soul of this man revived. For when he had went forth to fetch water, she would put the bread in the water pitcher. And when she came to the place where the poor man was, she took the bread from the pitcher and gave it to him to eat. And she did many days. And all the people of Sodom and Gomorrah wondered how this man could bear starvation for so many days. And they said to each other, this can only be that he eats and drinks, for no man can bear starvation for so many days or live as this man has without even his countenance changing. And 3 men concealed themselves in a place where the poor man was stationed to know who it was that brought him bread to eat. And Peltith, daughter of Lot, went forth that day to fetch water, and she put bread in her pitcher of water. And she went to draw the water by the poor man's place, and she took out the bread from the pitcher and gave it to the poor man, and he ate it. And 3 men saw that Peltith had did to the poor man, and they said to her, it is then thou who hast supported him, and therefore has he not starved, but changed in his appearance, nor died like the rest. And the 3 men went out of that place in which they were concealed, and they seized Peltith and the bread which was in the poor man's hand. And they took Peltith and brought her before the judges. And they said to him, this did she do, and it is she who supplied the poor man with bread. Therefore did he not die all this time. Now therefore declare to us the punishment due to the woman for having transgressed our law. And the people of Sodom and Gomorrah assembled and kindled a fire in the street of the city. And they took the woman and cast her into the fire, and she was burnt to ashes. And in the city of Amna there was a woman to whom they did delight. For a traveler came to the city of Abner to abide there all night, and with the intention of going home in the morning. And he sat opposite the door of the house of the young woman's father to remain there as the sun had set. She had reached that place, and the young woman saw him sitting there by the door of the house. And he asked her for a drink of water, and she gave it to him. Who art thou? And he said to her, I was this day going on the road, and reached here when the sun set. I will abide here all night, and in the morning I will rise early and continue my journey. And the young woman went into the house and fetched the man bread and water to eat and drink. And this affair became known to the people of Abner, and they assembled and brought the young woman before the judges, that they should judge her for this act. Can do no kindness, no act of kindness in Sodom and Gomorrah. That's the death penalty. And the judge said, the judgment of death must pass upon the woman before she transgressed this law, before she transgressed our law. And this therefore is the decision concerning her. And the people of the cities assembled and brought out the young woman, anointed her with honey from head to foot, and the judges had decreed, and they placed her before a swarm of bees, which was then in their eyes, and the bees flew upon her, and stung her that the whole body was swelled. And the woman cried out on account of the bees, and no one took notice of her or pitied her, and her cries ascended to heaven. And the Lord was provoked at this, at all the works of the cities of Sodom, for they had abundance of food, had tranquility among them, and still would not sustain the poor and the needy in those days. Their evil doings and sins became great before the Lord. So now you get to see more insight to why God wiped them out. They had an abundance. They were a prosperous nation, and they would not share and help the poor and the needy. And beside all the other stuff they did. And the Lord sent two of the angels that had come to Abraham's house to destroy Sodom and its cities. And the angels rose up from the door of Abraham's tent after they had eaten and drank, and they reached Sodom in the evening. And Lot was then sitting in the gate of Sodom. And when he saw them, he rose to meet them, and he bowed down to the ground. And he pressed them greatly, and brought them into his house. And he gave them victuals that they ate, and they abode all night in his house. And the angel said to Lot, Arise, go forth from this place, thou and all thy belongings to thee, lest thou be consumed in the iniquity of this city. For the Lord will destroy this place. And the angels laid hold upon the hand of Lot, and upon the hand of his wife, and upon the hand of his children, and all belonging to him. And they brought him forth, and set him without the city. And they said to Lot, Escape for thy life. And he fled, and all belonging to him. Now in the Bible, they gave more detail that the men of the city came to Lot's house and tried to rape the angels. And they was Sodomites. Sodom come from. They were homosexual. So the Bible shed more on the homosexuality of the town and the rape of men. But they see here in the Apocryphal book, they leave that part out. And they said to Lot, Escape for thy life and all thy belonging. Then the Lord rained upon Sodom and Gomorrah. But you got to see more insight of how corrupt they was and evil in the Apocryphal book. And upon all the cities, brimstone and fire from the Lord out of heaven. That's an absolute fact. And Ron White discovered Sodom and Gomorrah years ago. And the cities were burnt and vitrified with extreme heat. And I think he said it was like 98% grade sulfur, pure heavenly sulfur. It's still, when you find the modules, you can light and burn till it's very day, and it'll melt a spoon that it's burning. That's God's judgment on a do as thou. I even did a series on Sodom and Gomorrah, do as thou will. That's how he felt about the city. This is long before Hollywood. And he overthrew these cities in the plain and all inhabitants of the cities, which grew up on the ground. And Adu, the wife of Lot, looked back to see the destruction of the cities, for her compassion was moved on account of her daughters who remained in Sodom, for they did not go with her. And when she looked back, she became a pillar of salt, as yet that place till this day. And I've seen it. She is a pillar of salt still for the whole world to see. And oxen which stood in the place daily licked up the salt to the extremities of her feet, and in the morning it would spring forth afresh. And they again licked it till this day. And Lot and his two daughters that remained with him fled and escaped to the cave of Adullam. And they remained there for some time. And Abraham rose up early in the morning to see what had been done to the cities of Sodom. And he looked and beheld the smoke of the city going up like the smoke of a furnace. And like I said, it vitrified the whole city. The whole city became a heap of ash. And Lot and his two daughters remained in the cave. They thought it was the end of the world. And they made their father drink wine. And they lay with him. And they said, There is no man upon the earth that will raise up seed from him. For they saw that the whole earth was destroyed. And they both laid with their father. And they conceived and bare sons. And the firstborn was called Moab, saying, from my father did I conceive him. And he is the father of the Moabites until this day. And the younger also son called her son Benjamin. And he is the father of the children of Ammon until this day, the Ammonites. And after this, Lot and his 2 daughters went away from there, and he dwelt on the other side of Jordan with his 2 daughters and their sons. And the sons of Lot grew up, and they went and took themselves wives from the land of Canaan. And they begat children and were fruitful and multiplied. All right, we're going to stop there. And now we're at chapter 22. Well, we got a lot read today. So I hope I filled in a lot of gaps with you on Sodom and Gomorrah. And you see why God wiped them out. And like I said, the Bible gave more of the homosexual detail than the Apocryphal book. All right. So that was volume 3. We'll pick up in volume 4. We're dealing with Abraham now. All right, if I'm the one that taught you again, go to streetpriestministry.org, hit the donate button, tithes, first fruits, alabaster box. Belong to the Lord only if I taught you. Good day, good evening, good night to you around the world. May you grow in faith in Christ Jesus. Mighty name.